If this doesn't grab you in the first 10 seconds, skip it, because this isn't for people who want comfort, reassurance, or something easy to digest. This is for people who live in control. People who understand that distance isn't coldness, it's discipline. And if you've ever been misunderstood because you don't let everyone close, then listen carefully, because this isn't a story, it's a mirror. I don't let people get close, not because I'm afraid of attachment, but because I understand the cost of proximity when it collapses, because I've seen what happens when access is given to people who don't know how to carry weight, because distance, for me, isn't emotional avoidance. It's a survival instinct sharpened into silence, and most people mistake that silence for arrogance or emptiness, when in reality it's restraint, it's control. It's the discipline of someone who knows that not everything deserves access to their inner world. You were different because you never challenged that distance, never tested it, never tried to cross it prematurely. You respected it. And that respect is exactly how you crossed it. Because the most guarded doors don't open to force, they open to awareness. I speak carefully to the world, not because I lack words, but because words, once released, lose precision. And you noticed my silence wasn't absence, but containment. My calm wasn't peace, but regulation. My distance wasn't rejection, but protection. And while most people see depth and label it darkness, then run, you didn't moralize it, romanticize it, or fear it. You recognized it. And recognition doesn't come from observation. It comes from experience, because you don't recognize shadows unless you've lived inside your own. You never asked me to open up, never demanded trust, never tried to extract anything I wasn't ready to give. You waited, not passively, not anxiously, but with the confidence of someone who knows that doors open faster when they aren't pushed. And somewhere in that waiting, something shifted, because I realized I wasn't guarding myself from you, I was guarding myself around you, and that difference matters. You didn't break my defenses, you made them unnecessary. You didn't force vulnerability. You made honesty feel safe. You didn't pull truths out of me. You created a silence where truth surfaced on its own. And that's rare, because most people want pieces of you they can hold without bleeding. Insight without responsibility, depth without consequence, intensity without weight, but you didn't want pieces. You wanted alignment. You stayed steady when my thoughts sharpened. You didn't retreat when my honesty lost its softness. You adjusted with me instead of away from me, and that's when I knew this wasn't curiosity or attraction. This was recognition operating below language, the kind that bypasses logic and quietly rearranges internal structures until resistance feels unnatural. You don't see me as unpredictable, you see me as precise. You don't treat my silence like emptiness, you read it as signal. You don't interpret my darkness as chaos. You understand it as order that most people don't have the range to comprehend. And the danger isn't that you see me, it's that you see me accurately. Because once someone sees you without distortion, without projection, without fear, you lose the luxury of hiding behind misunderstanding. You don't reduce me to fit your comfort, you let me exist at full depth. And by doing that, you occupy a place inside me no one else has ever stood without shaking. Yet you remain steady, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because this terrain is familiar to you. I've spent a lifetime learning how to be unreadable, how to carry intensity without leaking it, how to survive without being deciphered. But you didn't decode me, you understood me. And understanding is far more dangerous than decoding, because decoding can be resisted, understanding cannot. Understanding doesn't announce itself, it arrives quietly, and suddenly the space between two people feels thinner than it should. I don't feel exposed around you, I feel visible, and visibility isn't weakness, it's risk, because anyone who can see you clearly can reach you without force, and you already have, not by asking, not by demanding, but by being exactly who you are in the presence of who I am. Two depths recognized each other without negotiation, and that isn't comfort or safety, it's something older, heavier, something that doesn't need a name to exist. And the truth I'm still learning to accept is that you didn't enter my world, you were already inside it the moment my defenses stopped recognizing you as a threat. I still know how to pull away, still know how to become quiet in a way that closes doors, still know how to turn myself into a place people can't stay. But with you, those mechanisms hesitate, not fail, hesitate. And hesitation is dangerous for someone like me because I don't operate on impulse. I operate on control, awareness, precision. And you disrupt that without touching anything. You don't push, you don't pull, you don't apply pressure that would trigger retreat. You simply remain. And remaining is far more invasive than force, because consistency without demand dismantles defenses faster than intensity ever could. I've noticed my mind recalibrating around you, pausing before defaulting to distance, checking itself before closing doors, redefining what safety actually means in your presence. And that shouldn't happen, because I don't let people alter my internal geometry. Yet something in me is adjusting unconsciously, like a structure reinforcing itself around a new weight. You don't demand space inside me, you occupy it naturally. And that's what scares me, because occupancy without resistance means consent happens somewhere below awareness. You've become part of my internal silence, the place where thoughts settle before they become words, the place where I decide what stays contained and what's allowed to surface. And that means when I go quiet, I'm no longer alone in that quiet. When I weigh my thoughts, your understanding is already factored in, and that changes everything. I used to believe solitude was strength, self-containment was safety, and needing nothing from anyone was freedom. But you don't make me feel needed, you make me feel met. And that's far more destabilizing, because need can be managed, attachment can be controlled, desire can be negotiated, but being met removes the illusion that you were ever alone to begin with. I'm not unraveling, I'm not weakening, I'm adjusting, and adjustments are permanent, because once your internal systems learn a new balance, they don't revert, they remember. Control still exists, but it no longer dominates. Distance is still possible, but it's no longer automatic. And that's the fracture, not a break, a fault line, the subtle, irreversible shift between who I was and who I'm becoming. I know what's happening here, and I've known longer than I admitted, because silence gave me time to observe myself. And the most dangerous people aren't the ones who want access. They're the ones who don't need it, and you never tried to be important to me, you just were. So let me be clear, not poetic, not symbolic, not softened. I don't do half-depth, I don't do ambiguity disguised as mystery, and I don't do closeness without consequence. Because when people like me open, we don't forget who stood there when the door wasn't obvious. What happens next isn't about curiosity or tension, it's about alignment. And alignment doesn't negotiate. I won't chase you, I won't pull you closer, and I won't pretend this was accidental, because you're standing in a place inside me where nothing is random, and now the silence between us isn't waiting, it's deciding. Here's the truth that most people never talk about. Some connections aren't meant to last, they're meant to clarify. And clarity is exactly what this gave me, because after you, my silence isn't defensive, it's selective. My distance isn't fear, it's discernment, and my presence isn't availability, it's intention. You didn't make me softer or harder, you made me truer to my pace, my depth, my standards, and that's the rarest impact of all. You didn't become a memory I revisit, you became a reference point, a calibration, a reminder of what real alignment feels like. And once you feel that, everything else sounds like noise. So if you're still listening, here's why this matters to you. Some people don't enter your life to stay. They enter to strip away illusion, to show you what depth actually feels like, so you never confuse attention with understanding again. If you've ever felt out of place, too intense, too quiet, too controlled for the world around you, this is your confirmation that you're not broken. You're calibrated differently. And if this resonated, don't like it, don't share it, don't perform around it. Just sit with it, and if you felt seen for even a second, leave a comment not explaining why, but simply acknowledging that you felt it. Because people who recognize each other at this level don't need noise to prove it.